Nat here from the Nextwork team, and I am so excited to be doing another amazing project with you all today. We are now at day 6 of the 7-day DevOps challenge. So welcome everyone, and I wanted to say a big shout out, big shout out to everyone that's watching this live today. It really means a big difference to have all of you get so excited about part 6 of our 7-day DevOps challenge, and let's get started today. Now, I thought I'd kick off this live today by introducing pro projects to you all. So out of the 7 projects in the 7-day DevOps challenge, there's one project that is a pro project, and that is this one. If you're new to Nextwork Pro is a series of advanced projects and learning features that you can get access to at Nextwork. Now, if you want to access today's project guide, I highly recommend checking out the link in the description, and you can unlock Nextwork Pro to get started. Otherwise, you can always follow along this project demo for free on YouTube. And if you'd ever like to know more about Nextwork Pro, you can always send me a message, or you can always check out the Nextwork community and ask a question. I thought I'd mention pro projects for a little bit longer today, this morning, because I understand that it might be a little bit worrying, like, oh, can I still finish this challenge if I don't do this pro project today? It's a totally valid question if you have that in your mind right now. And yes, you can still complete this entire challenge without doing this pro project. Think of this project that we're doing today as a special extra for anyone that wants to go above and beyond and just showcase even more advanced skills in their series of DevOps projects. So how about we jump in and unlock this project together and get started? All right, so here's an optional extra for the pros. Let's automate your web app's architecture by turning it into code today. For anyone that's live and tuning in, I'm just saying a big hello to everyone here. Gangada, thank you so much for tuning in. We got Ariana saying troubleshooting is our everyday life. And H, thank you so much. It's so cool to see you here. I hope you enjoy this project demo today too. Okay, so the plan for today's project is that we're going to get started by getting to know CloudFormation and then jumping into the hands-on work. And hello to Anita. Hi, good to see you. Okay. In today's project, we are going to be using CloudFormation to turn our web app architecture into a handy template. I have so much adrenaline right now because CloudFormation is an awesome tool to use in AWS. So if you're new to the concept of a handy template, you might be thinking, what is a template? A template lets you create and configure AWS resources like EC2 instances, like these CodeBuild projects we've set up, CodeArtifact repositories. You can set up all of these resources using code instead of clicking around in the AWS console. Using templates is super easy compared to, I would say super efficient compared to like trying to deploy your resources in the AWS console where you're like clicking and typing in things over and over again. Like you've done in projects 1 to 5 of the 7-day DevOps challenge, you've probably noticed that a lot of the time you're doing the same steps. You know, you're deploying the same EC2 instance, you're creating the same CodeArtifact repository. So that's when a template becomes very helpful. You can start to just define everything in your architecture in one kind of template, and each time you just deploy that template and all of the resources in that template gets created automatically for you. So no more having to click launch instance and then type everything and then launch your instance. It's more about let's just launch one single template and all the resources inside, all in one go, done. Now, if you're familiar with Terraform, you might be thinking, oh, is this the same thing as Terraform? Super similar. It's just that CloudFormation is more about AWS services and resources, whereas Terraform is a bit more advanced and it covers other cloud providers as well, like Azure, like Google Cloud Platform. Okay, so that's what we're going to be doing today. We're going to be automating our entire CI/CD architecture by creating one CloudFormation template to cover all of these resources inside. It's going to be pretty hype, everyone. We've got CodeArtifact covered, IAM resources covered, Code Connection, CodeBuild, S3 buckets, and even a CodeDeploy deployment group. So we've got a bit of ground to cover today, but it's going to be step by step together as every other project demo that we've done. So we're first going to generate a CloudFormation template. We're also going to be fixing some common errors you're going to see with infrastructure as code templates before we just throw this CloudFormation template to CloudFormation and we say, all right, I've written out the code. Here's everything that I want in my CI/CD architecture. Go and generate these resources. And you're going to see CloudFormation create everything that's inside this box in just a minute or two, which is super cool. Okay. So as a reminder, this project, think about it as like an extra booster or something for the pros if you want to try something a bit more advanced in this 7-day DevOps challenge. If you're feeling a little intimidated by this, CloudFormation could be a bit more of a step up compared to the other projects in this series. So you can still complete the entire challenge. You can still do tomorrow's project on Code Pipeline without doing this one. So think of this one as something that will just give you like that level up. And if it's something that's like, whoa, that was crazy, just know that this project is always available for you to come back to in the future. I totally think that you can do it. You know, if you have been thinking that everything in this series is completely new to you, just know that, yep, this is just like another new thing, and you're gonna crush it. You're gonna crush it. Okay, so this is a pro project, so if you'd like to know more about pro projects, this is a little intro for you as well. Compared to the free projects in our collection, overall, pro projects do tackle harder challenges, you do more complex things, and you are working on the most in-demand skills. So aside from this CloudFormation project, pro projects you can also learn things like Kubernetes, Terraform, multi-cloud, which is coming very soon. Okay. So let's get started, and I'll be selecting the high-touch version of this pro project today. So you'll still be getting step-by-step guidance. It's simply that the guidance is still going to be just as detailed, except that the things we're doing might be a little bit harder. All right? Cool. So I'm going to take a quick pause here. I know I was just introducing us to the project and pro for the first 5 minutes now of this live. So if there's anything that's on your mind, you have any questions about pro projects, please add them to the chat. And I really hope that you enjoyed this project demo today and learned something new from it. Okay, so before we start step one, this is a quick introduction to CloudFormation for you. Like I mentioned before, it's about being able to write down all of the resources that you want to deploy, like CodeArtifact repositories, S3 buckets, and more into a single template. So in today's project, we are going to just create all of these resources across steps 1 to 4, and then steps 5 to 8 of the project will be creating that CloudFormation template, testing it, seeing it fail, and then testing it again, and then seeing it work. So that's going to be cool. All right. Watch out for the setup steps that are actually marked as optional across steps 1 to 4 of this project. That's right. In case you were feeling like, oh, it's going to be intimidating to set everything up again from scratch, the cool thing about this project is that you don't need to do every single setup step to get to creating the CloudFormation template. I'm going to show you that there are a few things that you can skip. And yeah, those steps are also marked optional in the guide to make it very clear to you. All right, so in this project, we will demonstrate how to set up a CloudFormation template. We're doing this project to learn about infrastructure as code and how we can do this to our own architecture, i.e. our CI/CD architecture. By the end of this project, resources like CodeArtifact, CodeBuild, CodeDeploy, Code Connection, and more will be defined together in a single template. Amazing. I'm excited, team. So let's hit done. And this is a little check-in for us. Because have you completed days 1 to 5? of our 7-day DevOps challenge. This is day 6 here. So there's a good chance that you might have come across days 1 to 5 by the time you hit this video or this project demo or this project. And luckily, depending on where you're at, I'm pretty sure there's a path for everyone. You know, we've got a path that says, yep, you've done all 5 projects, kudos to you, and you've deleted all your resources as well before coming to this one, which is great. That's where I'm at. So it's awesome to have you back again. Or you might be, like a super quick kind of DevOps challenge taker, and you've been doing all of these projects in quick succession to the point where you've just kept all your resources because you're like, yeah, I'm just going to do the next one tomorrow, next one tomorrow, next one tomorrow. And if that's you, you've kept all your resources, you can skip the setup steps for this project and jump straight to step 5, which is awesome. Lastly, here is this option for what happens if this is your very first project that you're tuning in for this challenge. If you haven't tried the other projects yet, that's actually totally okay. You can still do this project. We've got the steps ready for you. There's a special tab just for you if this is your first project of the DevOps challenge. Okay, so we've got a few steps coming up, don't we? So we've got 4 steps of setup, and then after that, it's steps 5, 6, 7, 8. So 4 steps of setup, and then 4 steps of CloudFormation. I'm feeling really excited. Let's go. Let's absolutely crush this, like Niobe is saying, because I have confidence in us that we're gonna do this impeccably. We're gonna recap some things that we've done before. Step 1 is to set up your development instance. So let's do that first, okay? If you've done projects 1 to 5 of this challenge, I challenge you to do this with your eyes closed. Because we've done this 5 times now. This is round 6. And here are some of the optional steps coming through. As you can see, we've got some optional steps here. It's totally optional in this step to do any SSH connection, to install these tools, and to clone your web app code. So if you want to do that, that's pretty awesome. If you don't want to do that, that's totally chill. So I'm going to just pause here for a second so for you to ask any questions if you're new to optional steps. Okay, so have you decided what mode do you want to do today? Do you want to launch everything, or do you want to and do the optional steps too? Or do you want to go straight into the core parts of this project? Now, to keep today's live very focused on CloudFormation, I will be skipping the optional steps because these steps we've done before in previous lives and previous project demos, so you can always follow those project demos to resolve the optional steps. And then for myself, I'm just gonna keep to the core steps for today's project so we can focus on CloudFormation later on. Okay, I hope that sounds good. I hope that sounds good as our game plan, and let's get started. For step 1, it's just about launching an EC2 instance. So we'll just have to visit our very handy AWS Management Console and just log in as your IAM admin user, please. So once you're logged in, your next step is to visit your EC2 console and launch your EC2 instance. Now make sure you're in a region that works for this entire project today. So I've mentioned before that we have about 13 regions that can actually support this entire project and this entire series. Oregon is my recommended one. It covers truly everything, but Ohio is another great option. And if you're still looking for something that's closer to you that you want to try, I think we've got another option that we've listed here. Oops, Here, there we go. Here's the full list. So North Virginia, Ohio, Oregon, Ireland, London, Frankfurt, Stockholm, Milan, Paris, Singapore, Sydney, Tokyo, Mumbai. So that's the whole list, okay, of regions that you can do this project in. Please pick the one that works best for you and just make sure to delete all your resources. Check that region specifically at the end of this project, yeah? Okay, so I hope that sounds like a good plan. And let's get into creating that instance. Now, our instance setup is going to be super simple. Okay, we just have to launch an instance with our name. So Nextwork, Nextwork, DevOps, and Natasha is my name. Oh. And here we've got Amazon machine image. Let's choose the free tier eligible one. And then for instance type, let's choose another free tier eligible instance type. And for the key pair, you don't actually need your key pair today because the key pair we don't actually need to connect to our instance today for it to work. So to be honest, that key pair setup is optional too. But if you'd like to just have a complete EC2 instance setup for your development instance, go for it, create that key pair. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cheekily delete the key pair that already exists in my account. And let's just say I'm going to create a new key pair today in case I need to use it later on. Okay, so we've got Nextwork DevOps as the key pair that we're creating for our instance. And then that's pretty much our setup done. We've got just the network settings left. We're going to make sure that SSH traffic can come from our IP address, and we're done. Launch the instance. Okay, so we've launched the instance now, and to Anitha that's asking, what do optional tests mean? Please explain. So the optional steps are basically steps that you can do for a complete CI/CD architecture, Anitha, but they're not required for this specific project today. And I'll show you why that is. You can just launch all of the resources that are existing in your, you can just launch all of the resources that are still required in this project and skip the optional steps and still be able to generate the same CloudFormation template. And that's because our CloudFormation template is here to automate the resources that we create, whereas the optional steps that we're skipping are a bit more about connecting things. For example, connecting Maven with CodeArtifact, which you don't need for your CloudFormation template. And you'll see this in a bit more detail later on, but I hope that helps as a start. Cool. So, So once you're done launching your instance, you might notice that you can, head straight to the next step, right below here. Or if you'd like to take on the optional challenge, you can SSH connect to your instance and start kicking off these optional steps. So totally up to you. I'm gonna head straight to the next step now because that was it. That was it for our development instance setup. Pretty quick. So in this step now, we're setting up the CodeArtifact repository. And I don't know if you remember this, but CodeArtifact is about storing your packages, your web apps packages. So what we're going to do here is we're going to be setting up a few more things. We're going to be setting up the CodeArtifact repository. But other than that, you also have an IAM policy and role to set up. Okay, and then you also need to make sure that your development EC2 instance has access to CodeArtifact. So there's a few more things we need to set up here. That's cool. I have confidence in us. We've done this before. We can do it again. Here is how we set up the CodeArtifact repository. Once you open up the CodeArtifact console, you can enter a name for your repository, enter a very simple description like this, and for the public upstream repository, select Maven Central Store, and select Next, and create that domain for your account. So we're going to type in Nextwork as a domain name, and we're going to click Next to create our repository. All right. So this is how we created our CodeArtifact repository, and this relates to project 3 of our of our CI/CD pipeline or our DevOps series of our DevOps challenge. So if you want like a more deeper explanation about everything that we do in this CodeArtifact step, just know that we have a dedicated project on this entire CodeArtifact step, and I'd recommend checking out the project guide, which is called Securing Your Packages with CodeArtifact. The link to these are in the description box as well. Okay. Cool, and I'll just pause for a second for anyone that has any questions. Okay. I hope we are all feeling ready to keep on going with our speedy setup today. All right, so we've got CodeArtifact sorted. We've set up the repository in just a few clicks. And next up is an IAM policy and role for CodeArtifact access. Do you remember why we created this? So we introduced this back in project 3 of the challenge. And the reason why we created this policy and role was because CodeArtifact is super secure. So a lot of services by default don't actually have access to CodeArtifact. In order to give other resources in our CI/CD pipeline access to CodeArtifact, you have to first create a policy, which is like the privilege to access CodeArtifact, and then you have to set up a role, which is like a crown that our other resources will wear to be like, okay, once I wear this crown, it's attached to the policy, the privilege to access CodeArtifact. So once I'm wearing it, I have privilege and I have access to CodeArtifact. Okay, so because of that, it is super important for us to still set up that IAM policy and role. We want to add that to the architecture that we automate with CloudFormation after all. So with that said, let's visit IAM now and set up that policy and role. Let me know if I'm going a bit too fast because I recognize that the pacing can be a little bit quick. I'm going through and creating these resources a bit faster than I used to because I do assume that we have a bit of experience with previous projects in this challenge already. But if it's getting a bit fast, let me know and I can always slow down. So let me know if this is at a good pace and we'll keep on going. Okay, so I'm creating the policy now, which is the privilege to access CodeArtifact. And here we go. The policy definition is already available. The policy definition is already available in our project guide. So simply copy that definition and then you'll be able to finish setting up the policy. Okay, very nice. And hi to Timtimol AI Studio. Nice to see you again. Day 6 for 6. You're an absolute legend. I see you still have a bug, so let me know if that's posted in the community now or whether or not you want to talk about it. I mean, I'm excited to see you again, Timtimol AI Studio. So if you've got an error, I would love to hear it out and see what's going on. Don't forget to just paste in your entire error message if it's a bit complicated. But yeah, my gosh, I'm so happy to see you again. Thanks for being here. And continuing on with our CodeArtifact policy definition, we'll just quickly put in a name and a description, but the important part is that this policy exists. Okay, that JSON definition was the most important thing to paste in, and honestly, the name and the description is up to your discretion as well if you ever want to use a different one. Okay, so policy checked off. Next up is the role. The role is the crown that our resources need to wear. So in this case, we're going to be creating a role that says anyone that wears this crown has access to CodeArtifact. To set it up, we're going to say, okay, we're creating this role for EC2. All right, and this role is using the policy that we defined previously. So this is the policy that we created. Select next, and then you can enter a name for that role too. So that role we're going to say is called EC2 instance Network CI/CD. All done. The description can be IAM role for EC2 instances to access CodeArtifact. That's exactly why we're creating this role. Great. So we've got the role done now, And once that's done, you can attach that to the EC2 instance that you've launched. So access the EC2 instance that you've created. Okay, and let's see if you can take your instance, select actions, and attach the role that you've just created. Now again, in case this is a bit too speedy, just know that we have gone through these steps in a bit more detail for across steps, across project 3 of the 7-day DevOps challenge. And Abdul Rahman asks, on every day should I create a new repo? Is there any way to connect to an existing repo? Which is a good question. So we do connect to the same repo across projects 2 to 7 of this series. So you don't need to create a new repo every single time. You're actually using a GitHub repo that you continue to clone from projects 3 to 7. So you create the repo in project 2, and in projects 3 to 7, you're cloning that repo, and then starting from there. All right, so we've got our instance now with the role attached. Too cool. So once that's set up, you have actually finished all of the required steps of step 2 already. So CodeArtifact setup is all done from the infrastructure point of view. If you want to take on that optional challenge, this means that you can now also set up that connection between CodeArtifact and Maven in your EC2 instance. So that's for you to take on. And for myself, I'll take us to step 3 of this project now, which is all about setting up your CodeBuild project. Okay, now the CodeBuild project is a fun one to set up because there's so many resources in here. It's not just CodeBuild itself, there's this CodeBuild project in the middle, but there's also a few other resources you're going to need to set up. You need to set up an S3 bucket to store your build artifacts. And you also need to set up a code connection so that you can connect CodeBuild with GitHub. Okay, so we've got 3 resources that we're actually setting up in this one step. The CodeArtifact policy we just set up in IAM, so that's already covered. Okay, so those are the 3 resources. We got S3 bucket. Okay, we got CodeBuild. We've got code connection in here as well. And then there's also going to be a CodeBuild IAM role to update. Let's do this. Okay, we're going to go into S3 now and open up that bucket for us. Okay, and we're going to create the bucket. So I'm going to click on Create Bucket and create my bucket, which is going to be called Network DevOps CI/CD, and replace your name with your name like this. And then that's it, create the bucket. All done. Okay, so bucket creation done. Next up is your CodeBuild project. So we can go ahead to the CodeBuild console now. Let's search for CodeBuild. And let us open that in a new tab again. Do you guys hear that? Ooh, I can't tell if that was a police car or an ambulance. I hope everyone's okay. Okay, we've got a CodeBuild project to set up this time, and I'm gonna sneakily delete this CodeBuild project that's already in my account. I wonder why it's still here. That's interesting. This is interesting. I'm surprised to see my CodeBuild project still in my account. I wonder. I thought it would be gone by now. That's why I'm like a little surprised. But I've deleted the CodeBuild project so I can set one up from scratch with everyone today, which is good. And for our CodeBuild project setup, we've got a few things to configure. We've got our name to configure. Network DevOps CI/CD sounds great. We've got a source to configure. It should be GitHub that we're connecting to. And if you don't have this connection set up, you can always click on Manage Account Credentials. I'll disconnect this existing one, and then you'll see this. So when you're here, you're ready to, okay, so this is what you might see if you haven't connected to GitHub yet, and you're trying to connect GitHub with CodeBuild. So CodeBuild is going to want to connect to your code in GitHub, and that's why the source setup is so important. And here, we're going to say, all right, you want to connect to GitHub. Here's another service, Code Connection, that's going to help us just put these two together. So the moment you click on Manage Account Credentials over here, you're going to say, all right, I'm going to connect via the GitHub app. And there's no existing connection set up. So here is where you're going to say, all right, I'm going to go to Code Connection now to set up that connection. Okay, so here is now Code Connection, and Code Connection says, welcome, I'm here to help you with connecting to GitHub, and once you're connected to GitHub, I'll pass you back to CodeBuild. I'm gonna say, all right, thank you so much. And we're gonna say, I'm just gonna create a new connection with GitHub, please. We'll call that connection Network DevOps CI/CD, and let's connect to GitHub here. This is where you can just select which account you want to connect to, and select your select your GitHub account here. And that's it. Code Connection's like, all right, I've set you both up together now, all done. And if you click on the same Connect to GitHub page, you'll see that your account is now one of the drop-down options, which means you can use that to connect CodeBuild and GitHub. So we'll select Connect here. And there we go. Network-DevOps-CI/CD is the code connection that we've just created. And once we've all connected there, you're connected here too. Okay, cool. So now we're back into CodeBuild, and you can see that our account has successfully connected, which is great. From here, you can see a whole list of repositories that you can now pull in from your GitHub account. And we're going to select the one that we've been using for this entire series, Network Web Project. Good, good, good. Once that's done, we can keep on going and configure our environment. We'll first just untick this webhook events panel. We don't need it. It's a bit more advanced, and we can actually come back to this in Code Pipeline, the next project. But for now, let's set up our environment so that we've got all of these default settings. Great. And then just under image, we're going to update that to Corretto 8, because that is the language that we use to set up our web app. It was built with Java and Amazon Corretto 8. So let's make sure that the image uses that too. It's so important actually that when we set up all of these resources that we're using the correct settings, because these settings are gonna all go into the template that we set up at the end of this. How are we going, everyone? How are you going with your resources? Are you creating them okay? Have we gotten stuck in any of these resources? I really want to know. So do update the chat on how you're going. Nice. A role gets created automatically when you create your CodeBuild project. So let's keep this new service role, and we're going to update that in the next part of this setup. And build spec. Do you remember what build spec does? Build spec is a file that tells CodeBuild how to build your project. So you absolutely need to tell your CodeBuild project setup that we're going to be using a build spec file today. What that tells CodeBuild is that, oh, okay, you've got a build spec file? Then when I'm ready to build your project, I'm going to look for a build spec file inside your code repository. So that's why clicking use a build spec file is a very important setting that we definitely shouldn't miss before we keep on going. All right. And now for the artifacts section, we're going to say, yep, we're going to be storing the build artifacts in an S3 bucket. And that bucket is what we set up in the previous setup part, and we called it network-devops-cicd-your name. And hello to Azab. Welcome. I think this might be your first live in the entire series, is it? I'm so excited to have you here. Thanks so much. Okay. And then the name correlates to the name of the build artifact that you create. So in this case, for us, we're going to give it the nextwork-devops-cicd, classic name. And this time, just append a little dash artifact at the end, so it's easy for us to identify it later. But that's all done, team. Once that's all done, I think we can just tell CodeBuild that our file is in a zip file, and then that we're going to use CloudWatch, and that the logs is going to be called that default name, AWS-CodeBuild-Nextwork-DevOps-CICD. And we'll create it right away. Cool. So when we're ready, I think we can now go ahead and create the build project. Awesome. Let's see how that goes. Feels like it's loading for a little bit. I'm a little worried. You know, if I saw that existing build, I saw that existing connection, and I thought, oh my gosh, I thought this might fail because of an existing service role or one of those errors I saw in the previous live. But it worked perfectly. And as you can see, CodeBuild even has that handy URL that takes us straight to the GitHub repository that we've set up previously. So good. Okay. All right, team. And so good. You're joining this series for the first time. A warm welcome, and I hope you enjoy. So this project is project 6 of our 7-day DevOps challenge. So I'm going through a bit of setup right now, and I'm going through it at a bit of a faster pace. So if this also happens to be the first live you see with Nextwork, just know that we go through things step by step, and we explain every single concept, and it's only when I'm redoing setup steps like right now that I might breeze through things a bit quickly. So yeah, feel free to ask questions as we go, and a warm welcome. Okay, so we've set up the CodeBuild project now. It's created, very nice. What's next for us is to just make sure that CodeBuild has the correct permissions, because CodeBuild right now really needs access to CodeArtifact. Okay, CodeArtifact is going to be the artifacts repository for CodeBuild as well when CodeBuild needs to build your project. So because of that, we want to make sure that CodeBuild has access to CodeArtifact, and you do that by editing CodeBuild's role. Okay, so CodeBuild by default already has a role set up. This was the service role that we saw in our setup page. And this service role is like this existing crown that our dear CodeBuild project already wears. But that crown that our CodeBuild project is wearing doesn't have permission to CodeArtifact. You can see that it has these base policies inside that gives it access to other services like CloudWatch logs, like S3 buckets, very nice, like CodeBuild, other parts of CodeBuild itself, great. And it also has access now to Code Connection, so it has access to our GitHub repo. But where's the access to CodeArtifact? Doesn't exist, which means we need to add the policy for CodeArtifact. And that one is right here. So if you were to enter CodeArtifact, you can find it as a search result, and you can add the permission. Okay? Very nice, team. So we've created our policy now, and that is actually our entire CodeBuild setup, the compulsory parts, all done. That's it. Very good. So CodeBuild is finished now. You can move on to step 4, which is all about CodeDeploy. Are you feeling ready? CodeDeploy was the project we only just introduced yesterday. So if you're feeling a little nervous about CodeDeploy, if you're thinking, oh man, this one's still kind of new to me, that's a totally normal feeling. And I'm actually, yeah, I think this is going to be good for us to just repeat some of the setup stuff that we've done in the previous project, so we can also do a bit of revision. Okay, I'll go slightly slower in this one, knowing that this is still slightly new to us. Cool? All right, So CodeDeploy is the service that actually deploys your web app into the world. So CodeDeploy has a few important things it needs to do. First things first, CodeDeploy needs to go to the S3 bucket that we set up. Remember this S3 bucket we created? We created it in the previous step. Okay, so we created this S3 bucket in the previous step. And what's going to happen is when CodeBuild is successful, CodeBuild's going to throw the completed build artifact into the S3 bucket. I'm all done. Go ahead. You can deploy this file now, is what CodeBuild is going to say. CodeDeploy is on the other side here, and CodeDeploy is going to say, oh, we've got a build artifact. It's ready for deployment. Great, that's cool. CodeDeploy is going to go and grab that file in S3 and deploy it. How does CodeDeploy deploy it? So what needs to happen is you actually need to have some architecture set up for your deployment. Deployment is a completely different environment from development because deployment is what your users can see live, whereas development is what you as a developer would want to work in so that you can test different kinds of code, you can experiment with new features, you can try new tools without affecting what your users see. So this separation of environment is extremely important, and that's why for CodeDeploy, when it's ready to deploy your web app, it deploys it in a new EC2 instance. It doesn't deploy it in the existing EC2 instance that we've created. A new instance needs to be set up first, and then CodeDeploy is going to deploy the web app there. So in this setup step, we're actually going to need to first set up that infrastructure. We need to first say, okay, let's set up our deployment instance, which comes with a few VPC and networking resources as well. These networking resources helps to make sure that when we deploy our web app into that deployment instance, that web server, that the traffic, like traffic from me, traffic from any public internet user, can actually access the web app. There are some pretty important networking settings that you'll need to do if you were to do it manually. So we decided to just package all of that up into another CloudFormation template so you can deploy all of those resources in one go without worrying about your network settings. So yeah, the first thing we're going to do, deploy this existing CloudFormation template we give you so you can set up your web app architecture. And once that's done, CodeDeploy is going to deploy the web app onto here. All right. And Mario, hello, hello. Hi, I hope you're doing good. Did you get to complete the previous project yesterday? How did you fare? I am really excited to be doing this project with you. You've been doing so well in this challenge. So all the best with this one. I know you've got this. Okay. So like the previous steps, we have still broken down your CodeDeploy setup into a few key parts that you can challenge by yourself. I would highly recommend that you actually pause this video or mute me so you can try challenge yourself to redoing the deployment setup by yourself without guidance. Okay, but if you'd like some guidance, you know, keep my voice playing. Let's do it together. All right? Okay, first things first is the deployment environment, that architecture we talked about. We're going to tackle this thing first. Ooh, hello. We're going to tackle this thing first, okay? And we're going to do this by going into our CloudFormation console. Let's find CloudFormation, open that in a new tab, and visit our very handy CloudFormation console. All right, I know my console looks a little wild. It looks a bit like a jungle right now. With all these rollback complete statuses, so don't be alarmed. This is just me experimenting with all different kinds of things before the live. But actually for us and for yourself, you might see a completely clean stacks page, and that's totally cool too. And that's honestly what I'd want. I'd want a completely clean stacks page. It's been a while. We're gonna create a new stack now. And we're going to tell CloudFormation that we're here to deploy an EC2 instance and some VPC resources so that CodeDeploy can deploy some things onto our development deployment environment. To do that, we're going to tell CloudFormation that a template already exists, And here's a template. We're going to upload a template file, and we can download this template file using this link here. Okay, so select that, download it, and let's chuck that into here. So drop the file that you've just downloaded, and it's going to work out pretty fine. Ooh. For us to go next. Okay, let's select next. And let's give our template a name and keep on going. So the name of our template is going to be Nextwork CodeDeploy EC2 Stack. And if that name already exists for you, just add a cheeky 1 or a cheeky 2 to the end, and then you can keep on going, all good. Next is to set up your IP address. We need to tell AWS what our IP address is, and that's a very, very common thing when you're setting up networking resources. So we will use this site here to check what our IP address is. And I swear, I don't think this is my actual IP address. I'm feeling pretty sus about this one. I like to just cross-check it with this official website called What is my IP address? And sometimes if those two are different, I would just go for whatever's here. Yeah, I wonder if that IP address website is also showing weird numbers for everyone. I might just update the link to this one for everyone, so we're all using this one instead. So shady that that other website keeps giving me a different IP address. Okay, and once you're ready, you've got your IP address copied in, you can paste that here and add a 32 to the end so that it is your specific IP address that the template can use. Okay, so we're gonna select next. And well done to Mario. You did it! You did CodeDeploy? What? Amazing! What the heck? Ah, too good. All right, so we're about to deploy this template. And what's next for us to set up is to just make sure that if anything fails in this template, fingers crossed we don't fail anything, but if it fails, tell CloudFormation that our preference is to delete all of the resources that CloudFormation deleted along the way, so that we can keep our account very, very clean, just in case. We're going to tick this handy checkbox at the end, select next, and in our review page, all we got to do is make sure that the template is ready, make sure that there is a stack name, make sure that your IP address looks about right, and that's it. Let's go ahead and submit this template and let CloudFormation do its thing. So once you submit this, CloudFormation is off going to do some hard jobs deploying the deployment environment for us. And the good news is CloudFormation can do that while we work on the next thing. So we can set up our CodeDeploy application next. Very nice. Now, we're going to automate deployments with CodeDeploy. That's the whole purpose of CodeDeploy. And you can find CodeDeploy by going back into your CodeBuild tab if you want, and then just finding CodeDeploy on the left-hand navigation bar. Here, you can open up deployments, and actually, let's open up applications. That's what we want to open. Let's go back to CodeDeploy. I'm hyped. I'm hyped. This is our second time now creating a CodeDeploy application. And let's get into it. This one is super simple. Just give your application a name, Nextwork DevOps CI/CD, mention the compute platform, which is an EC2 instance, and that's it. Select Create Application, and you're done. That's your application done. And we're almost done now. We just have one more setup step to go. And this one is to create your deployment group. So if CodeDeploy applications are like folders of deployment settings, each deployment group is a set of deployment settings. Every time you deploy your, you decide to deploy your web app, there are actually lots of different ways you can deploy the web app. Here are the different kinds of settings that you might see. You can alter your deployment settings based on the service role or like the permissions that CodeDeploy has. You can alter it based on how you deploy it. So do you want to just deploy the new version instantly to the instances that you want to deploy it to? Or do you want to set up a completely new environment, deploy your app update there, and then switch traffic to that new environment after the deployment is done? You know, there's so many different things you can do. Do you want to deploy to EC2 instances, on-premise instances? All of these settings combine to make up a deployment group. And each deployment group is like a different configuration to set up your own preferences. So we've got the most simple preference, or the simplest setting coming up. Just enter a name for your deployment group, and for the service role, you need to create one from scratch. So let's go back to the IAM console to set it up. But after you set up the service role, all of these will be using the simplest settings. Okay, so we'll be able to finish this deployment group pretty quickly too. Okay, as I mentioned before, this service role is going to it's going to require us to create the service role. So we need to give CodeDeploy a little crown that gives it access to EC2 instances, for example. And to do that, we have to go back to our IAM console, create a role, and create a role for what service? Who's going to wear this crown? CodeDeploy is going to wear this crown. Okay, CodeDeploy. All right, so CodeDeploy is going to, we're creating this role for CodeDeploy to use. And the cool thing is, AWS is already going to say, oh, I'm familiar with CodeDeploy. I know what CodeDeploy deployment groups usually need. I've already packaged it into an existing policy. So here's this policy that AWS has already created for us. And there we go. It has access to EC2 instances, which is exactly what we need. So we're going to go next. And we're going to give our CodeDeploy role a name. Once you've given it the name, we can go ahead and create the role, and the role's all created. Great work, everyone. So we've got the role created. All we need to do now is just put that role into our setup. We'll need to refresh our deployment group page, enter in the name, and then enter in the permission, IAM role, which is AWS CodeDeploy role. Very good. Once that's done, you can choose the default deployment type. You can choose that we are deploying to Amazon EC2 instances, and tell CodeDeploy which instances it should deploy to. In our case, there's a handy tag that we can use to instantly find the instances that CodeDeploy should use. The instances should have a tag for role, and the value of that tag should say web server. So this is a tag that was set up by the, I was going to say something. This was the tag that was set up by the template when we launched that template at the start of this step. As you can see, I've got 2 unique match instances, but it's probably going to show as one for yourself. And I think the reason for this is because I think I deployed the same template just a second ago and I forgot to delete it. Yeah, it's still here. So technically I should have deleted this before I started this project. If I had deleted it, if I'd done the right thing, you're gonna see that it's only one match instance, which is what you're gonna see, okay? So if you see that you have one match instance, that's the correct answer. That's what you're supposed to see. And we're gonna keep this as the default setting. Let's use a CodeDeploy agent, and we're gonna use all at once for our deployment setting. Load balancer, if you might remember, is something that we don't need, so we can actually uncheck that one. Okay, cool. So let's create the deployment group now. Okay, and once it's created, we have created the deployment group. Can you believe it, team? That's all of the setup done in just 1 hour. I'm really glad that we could recap projects 1 to 5 of this series and also get into something new together now. Are you ready, team? We're gonna get into CloudFormation now, which is gonna be fun. So we now have our web apps infrastructure all set up. And from step 5 onwards, it's about deploying our infrastructure in seconds with CloudFormation. Whoa. You know how we had that template that helped us set up our deployment instance as well as all the VPC resources around it? Now our challenge is to pretty much create the same thing, create a template, but this time our template is going to cover all of these resources we had to set up just now. And what that means is, for the next project, you can reuse this template and save yourself 1 hour of setup time. Very cool. In this step, we will set up a CloudFormation template. This will help us save a whopping 1 hour of setup time in the next project, which is pretty sick. Okay, so let's generate our CloudFormation template, and that starts by visiting our CloudFormation console one more time. But no more stacks, okay? We're not gonna be in the stacks page anymore. We're gonna go to another page now. Let's head on over to the IaC Generator. New page. How are you feeling about this? Okay. The IaC Generator is a tool in CloudFormation that helps make writing templates much, much faster. The IaC Generator basically scans your account. Like, you literally tell your IaC Generator, just like, look for all of the resources in my account. And then the IaC Generator is gonna say, here's a list of all of the resources in your account. And then what's next is that you can create your template from there. You can view all of the results. You can say, tick, 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 I want this in my template. And then IaC Generator is going to say, okay, I see what you want. Okay, you've ticked an S3 bucket, you've ticked a CodeArtifact repository, you've ticked a CodeDeploy application. Cool, let me put this all together into one template and give this back to you. And then you're going to take this generated template with all of the code inside already, and you can start deploying it straight away and start seeing resources get created straight away. That sounds pretty simple, doesn't it? You might be thinking, easy. It's gonna be easy peasy in this project. And I honestly agree that the creation of the template is easy, but the refining of the template is where it gets a little bit tricky, okay? The refining of the template is where a lot of students have gotten stuck, so I'd highly recommend that we pay close attention to all of the steps coming up. Let's do it. Okay. So here is our IaC Generator introducing us to its 3-step process. 1, let the generator scan everything that's in your account. 2, tick, 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 create a template. And then 3, basically give CloudFormation that template after you've ticked your things, you've set things up, and you've refined it, and then CloudFormation is gonna go and create those resources inside. Easy, right? Should be all good, right? So let's start a new scan. I have a button that says rescan because, truth be told, it ain't my first rodeo with the IaC Generator. I've already scanned my resources before, so it looks like this. It's probably gonna say start a new scan for you. So if that's what you see, that's also what we wanna see. It just means it's your first time scanning your account. Well, let's do this together. Let's just click on the button that you see. For me, it's rescan. For you, it's a scan. And you're gonna notice that you have a bar here afterwards that tells you your progress if this is your very, very first scan. If this is not your first scan, like me, if this is not your first scan, you're gonna see something slightly different. You're gonna see that you just have this like static panel here that doesn't have any progress update. So it's gonna be a little bit harder for us to figure out when is that scan gonna finish. But if this is your first scan, you will see that progress bar, which is good. Now, if you're feeling a little worried and you're thinking, how do I know when my scan's finished? The easier way is to first just click on this refresh button, okay? And keep clicking until you can see that the active time, or the last attempted scan time, the last completed scan time, this one, sorry, until you see that this time has updated to your current time. For context, my last attempted scan is my current time. So this is my time right now. You want to make sure that this time matches this time here. They're still not matched up, which means I'm still on my old scan that I don't need. So we'll just keep an eye out for that one there. Okay. So I'm just gonna keep an eye out for our chat here, because I just want to make sure that everyone's feeling all good about their account scan. It usually takes about 5 to 10 minutes for the scan to complete, which is a little lengthy, isn't it? In the meantime, though, we've got a few things we can learn about, so let's dive into it. First of all, why do we need to scan our AWS account? As a recap, an account scan is like taking inventory of everything in your AWS account that could become a part of your CloudFormation template. It's super essential because the infrastructure as code generator needs to discover what you have before it can create that template. It's really like a research phase of what is in your account before we write out the template itself. Okay, so let's recap that together. The IaC Generator is a tool in the CloudFormation console that helps us with writing CloudFormation templates much faster. It works in a 3-step process where the IaC Generator first scans our resources, then lets us create a template based on the resources it's found, and finally let us launch that template to deploy the resources in that template. Great. So we'll just keep on clicking that refresh button. Okay, my last completed scan is still not updated. That's okay. We're gonna wait until that last completed scan is the same at the same time. And in the meantime, does anyone have any questions, or how are we going with that CodeDeploy error? Tintamal AI Studio, hello, I see. Oh my gosh, we've got an error here. What's going on? Hope things are all good, man. I'm thinking of you. Yeah, this is awesome. Oh my god, this is the first time where we have a bit of waiting time in the middle of a live. I'm like very, very new to this. So as we wait, maybe there's something I can do with us. What can I do? Let me think. Oh, okay. Just for funsies, while we wait, I can do just a share back of my portfolio. So I've been working on my portfolio for about 2 months now, and it's good to just fill it up with projects across the last 2 months. So this is my last 2 months of projects. I still need to put in projects that I've done in the past, but it's crazy that once I fill it up with all my next week projects, that there will be a lot more than what's here. It's probably going to be about 50-something projects, which I'm pretty excited about. And yeah, every day you do the 7-day DevOps challenge, add that project to your portfolio. This is mine, so you can see my intro project is over here. Join the 7-day DevOps challenge. That one is over here. I hope you can open it. And this is a project where you get to just explain what even is a CI/CD pipeline. So it's a bit of an overview of what you're about to do. Very cool. All right, so this one is your intro project, and then after that, you can also connect a GitHub you can also set up your web app in the cloud. That's project 1. Project 2 is connecting a GitHub repo. Project 3 is securing packages with CodeArtifact. Number 4 is CodeBuild. Number 5 is CodeDeploy. Number 6, this one is CloudFormation. So it's been a great journey here. And if you're new to pro projects, if this is your very first pro project, just know that when you search for projects at Nextwork, you can always click on our series of pro projects and check it out. Check out all of the other projects that you get access to. There's a whole Kubernetes series that's available for Nextwork Pro students. We also have an advanced 3-tier architecture series that's available for pro students, and some more advanced security projects too. So we've got securing secrets with Secrets Manager. We've also got one on encrypting data with the key management service. And then there's also one on threat detection with guard duty. There are some AI projects that you can get access to as well. So yeah, I really hope that you enjoy Nextwork Pro and make the most out of it. And let me know if there are any other projects that you're wanting to see. It's also cool to click on the 7-day DevOps challenge and see what a good job everyone's been doing across this challenge. Keep it up, everyone. Keep it up. Am I going to be the first to complete the CloudFormation project, or is someone else going to beat me to it? I'm literally doing it live right now, but it absolutely spooked me the other day when I went to submit my project live. Like I clicked on mission accomplished, and then I think I happened to refresh the project before I clicked mission accomplished. And I saw someone else had already done the project. And I thought, oh my goodness, someone else bet me to it to complete the project live. That was crazy. So shout out to whoever that person was. And we're finally done with our scan. So that was a fun little detour. Thanks so much for tuning in on that detour with me. And let's keep on going. Okay, scan is complete. We can now create our template. To create the template, you can select on that Create Template button. And let's give it a very surprising name, which is Nextwork DevOps CI/CD. It's not surprising. We've literally been giving this name to like every second resource we create. So we're going to call this template Nextwork DevOps CI/CD. And then for the deletion policy, we're going to say delete for all of these. And these policies basically tell CloudFormation what to do with your resources if you delete the stack. Setting it to delete is like just saying, okay, if I delete the stack, just delete everything that's inside. Your resources will be completely removed as well. And then update replace policy is more about if you were to update the stack, which we don't really need to do. It usually means if you were to update something that's within that stack, what do you do with the existing one? Do you delete? Do you keep it? What do you want to do? So that's up to you. I usually go for delete for both of them because it's a bit cleaner for my account. I just leave less resources behind, which I prefer. Okay. And if you're like me and you have a template already existing, you can just add a cheeky -1 to the end of the name and create your template. Cool. So this is where you have a bit of a challenge today. We're on a hunting mission now, everyone. So everyone tuning in, we're on a hunting mission together. The mission is that we need to find all of the resources that we've created across steps 1 to 4 and tick them in this list here. So we're about to put together our template, and CloudFormation is saying, okay, here are the 653 resources I've scanned in your account. Which do you want to put in your template? And we're going to say, okay, hear me out. I got a bunch of resources available that I want to put into a template for my CI/CD architecture. So let's tell CloudFormation what those resources are. There are 10 in total, at least 10. There's actually more than 10, but I would say at least 10 is the goal we want to hit for all the resources we can find ourselves. Here's a quick demo of how you can find a resource and put that in your template. But after I do this demo, I like everyone to give it a go by themselves, pause this video, mute me, and try to find all of the resources, all the other resources for your template by yourself. Here's the demo. Let's say I want to put in my CodeArtifact domain, one of my resources that we created, into this template. We're going to type in code like this, and you're going to see a few suggested resources that you can put in your template. It's the CodeArtifact domain that I'm going to pick. So let's just select CodeArtifact domain. Let's check this checkbox. And you're going to see at the bottom of the page, okay, selected resource is, it has CodeArtifact domain in it now, so it's selected. Very good. So that's one down. We need to have at least 10. So this is where I'm telling you again, please pause now. I'm going to do like pause signs. So you're like, pause now. Okay, pause now. I'm going to keep on going now and just continue to put in the other resources into our template. But for all of you that's tuning in, pause now. I don't know how to make it clear. I hope that's clear enough. And when you're ready, you can play this again. And let's see if you got everything right. Okay, so I'm going to challenge myself as well. I'm not going to look at any guidance. I'm going to try to see how many of this I can find. Another code resource you can see is already suggested here. It's our CodeArtifact repositories. So let's go ahead and tick those two as well. Done. CodeArtifact repository. What else is in there? CodeDeploy application. Yep, we want that. CodeDeploy application was set up in step 4, and these CodeArtifact resources were set up in step 2 of this project. Otherwise, what else do we have? We got CodeStar connections. Ooh, I like this. I like it a lot that we can even pick that connection we have to GitHub inside our scan resources. So that's step 3. And you might be thinking, where the heck is CodeBuild? Yeah, we can't even find CodeBuild here. And that's completely true. So CodeBuild is one of those services that has way too much complicated setup for the IaC Generator to scan and to put in your template. So it's not in the list. We can't actually put CodeBuild into a generated template with IaC, with the IaC Generator, which is why it's a secret mission later for us to write it manually ourselves. We're like, all right, CloudFormation, you're telling me you don't know how to do this? Fine, like I'll do it myself. Pfft, let's go and write that template definition for CodeBuild in our secret mission. Not now though, we still have a few other resources to find. Our code resources are here, and we've got other ones available. What other ones am I missing? Can you tell? Okay, I'm gonna leave this up for a minute actually, just for me to collect a few ideas. Let me gather a few ideas from the chat. What resources do you think is still left to do? CodeArtifact is done. CodeDeploy is done. CodeStar connections is done. We just mentioned that CodeBuild is not possible, but what else is available? Ooh, I wonder if this is too much of a challenge. Let me know actually if this is if the challenge is too great, and maybe I can add more guidance in the project guide too. Okay, So other resources that we can add include S3. Do you have an S3 bucket? Don't forget that even though CodeBuild's not around, some other resources related to CodeBuild are still around. One of them is the S3 bucket that we created, and that one is called nextwork-cicd-your name. So we can select that. And we also have, oh, we got Andre in the chat saying good evening. Good evening to you too, Andre. What time is it for you over there? It sounds like it's the evening for you. Hope you're doing well. And we've also got IAM resources. Don't forget that IAM resources are the reasons why our resources have permissions to other things. So let's make sure that we got our instance profile set up. So instance profile is for our EC2 instance to get access to CodeArtifact. So let's click this in here. EC2 instance, Nextwork CI/CD. And then we've also got more. Do you remember? The other one are the IAM admin roles that we've created. So we've got CodeBuild, our CodeBuild service role here. Very good. What other roles can you remember? CodeDeploy, I found it. Yep, our CodeDeploy role, that's important. What other roles can you remember? Can you remember that there's one more role that we've created in this project? I found it. It's our EC2 instances role. This is the crown that our EC2 instance wears to get access to CodeArtifact, and it's not the same as an instance profile, actually. So if you get confused, you're like, didn't we just click on an instance profile? In the background, here's a little extra for the pros. In the background, when we create a IAM role, AWS automatically creates an instance profile. And an instance profile is actually the real thing that gives an EC2 instance the permission to access things. But in order to keep things simple for you, how AWS presents it to us is by saying, oh, create a role and attach the role to EC2. What actually happens in the background is that you've got a role, and it points to an instance profile, and that instance profile is what actually points to our EC2 instance. And I think that's simply the way EC2 instances are set up. They're actually set up to use instance profiles to get permission to things. Roles are more for other services, like CodeDeploy, CodeBuild, they use roles. Okay, great. So the role is done. What other IAM resource have we created? Do you remember? It is a managed policy. So we've got a ton of policies in here. It's a little like insane to look at sometimes. So you have a few options. You can choose to either go through this page by page and select them. Like in this case, I can tell this is a policy we created. Your other option is to actually find, the actual names of these policies in your IAM console and then paste that in here under resource identifier. And then you'll be able to just instantly find a resource with the matching identifier. So if I were to try to do that with our IAM role, I would go to the IAM policy. I will go to the policy I want to find, which is CodeArtifact. This policy here that we created. I would click into it, and then I would pick the identifier, which is the ARN here. So I will copy that identifier, come back here, and then instead of searching by resource type, I'm now searching by the identifier, which should work. Sometimes it doesn't, which makes me really mad. It didn't work. Why did it not work? Did the identifier look different? Oh, I think it did actually. No, it didn't actually. It's the same identifier. I thought maybe the identifier looks different. But it's the same identifier, and it didn't find this thing. Hello? Resource identifier. Hey, that sucks. I would have thought this is the way to go. Unless you're supposed to just only put in the name? Sometimes this works instead. All right, that's a little bit disappointing, team. I'm sorry about that. I actually thought it actually worked the other day. Oh no, the fact that it doesn't work live is maddening. All right then. So sometimes the resource identifier route doesn't quite work, and that's when just clicking on the resource type and going straight for the policy from here might work out a bit better. Man, I'm a bit mad about that one. Do you think I missed any other resource? In the meantime, Andre, thank you so much. Your channel's really awesome. Great job. Ooh, thanks. It's 8:28 p.m. for you. Wow. Thanks for tuning in. This is so cool. I really appreciate the message. Oh, but it does look like the policy, the resource identifier didn't work there. It did work the other times I used this, so I'm really curious now. If I ever figure out why it didn't work today, I'll update us. So when you're ready to check your work, you can go see whether or not you have all of the resources in this handy checklist. Do you have 2 CodeArtifact repositories? Nice, done. Do you have 1 S3 bucket? Ah, we do, very nice. Do you have your CodeStar connection set up? Oh, I think we do. We got the CodeStar connection. What about your CodeDeploy application? Do you got it? Do you have it? Nice. And what about the IAM roles? Do you have 3? Is it for your EC2 instance, CodeDeploy, and CodeBuild? Great. And do you have the policy you wrote for CodeArtifact? So these are the policies that you've definitely created for your project. And if you found all 11, well done. Very, very impressive work. Did you find all 11? All right, I'm gonna click next now so that we can start creating the template. Now before you go, you're gonna notice that you have about 10 to 12 resources set up, but you've got the IaC generator recommending more. It says, what about this EC2 instance? What about this network interface and security group and subnet? These are resources that can open up a can of worms for us. Okay, so a heads up, these are great resources to put into a template, but usually it does complicate the template a little bit more, especially when you try to deploy it. So what I'd actually recommend is for us to not accept these suggestions from IaC. We're gonna say, thank you so much for recommending all of this that you can do for us, but I'm not going to put my development instance in the template. If you want to though, if you want to take on that challenge, go for it. But as you might have learned with the way we deployed our deployment environment, it's not just the EC2 instance you deploy, you have to also deploy the networking settings around it, which is what makes it a little bit complicated. So for us, once that's done, let us just keep the managed policies that IAM picked up. IAM did pick up CloudFormation did say, hey, you got these managed policies that are related to CodeBuild. You know, you see how it says CodeBuild, CodeBuild, CodeBuild. These are all policies related to CodeBuild. I don't know if you remember this, but if you want to visit your CodeBuild role, if you click into the CodeBuild role, you're going to see that it has permissions that's way more than just CodeArtifact. You know, CodeArtifact is one of them, but look at these 3. The base policy, CloudWatch logs, and code connections. That matches exactly what CloudFormation has picked up on, which is awesome. So how CloudFormation would have realized this is it usually has a net, like a kind of like a line drawing of what's connected to what. And in this case, it has a line drawing that says, hold on a second. If you want to create your CodeBuild role, do you want to go ahead and create all the policies attached to that role? And same with here with all of these like networking details. It's going to say, oh, well, if you're already creating that IAM role that allows access to CodeArtifact, why don't you just also deploy the instance that you attach that role to? So it has all these great suggestions that we're not going to accept, but we are going to accept this policy one. This is a good one. All right. So once you're here, let's reflect on what we've learned so far and then keep on going with our template. Awesome stuff, team. A CloudFormation template is a text file that defines resources I want to deploy inside. The resources that I could add, I would actually just rephrase this a little bit. I would actually want to say the resources that I did add to my template include CodeArtifact, domains, and repositories, CodeDeploy application, there was also the IAM role, IAM roles and policies, which is great, and S3 bucket. The resources we couldn't add to our templates were CodeBuild projects, and I don't know if you noticed this, but for CodeDeploy, we also couldn't add the deployment group. We could only add the application. This is because both resources are quite complicated in nature. i.e., there are lots of settings we'll need to configure. The IaC Generator is not yet capable of scanning these settings, so you'd have to do it manually. You'd have to write these manually. All right, cool. So here we can also reflect on what we've just learned by first creating the template, and then after we create the template, oh man, is there a failure? So you can see this template gets created here. And for me, some resources failed today. So click into the template resources tab, and it's gonna say, some resources failed. Why? Why? Code connection says the given resource does not exist. The S3 bucket says the given resource does not exist. Oh, how rude. Well, this is okay. If you want to resolve this, how you can do it is by clicking on the resource here, like this. And then you can remove them if you'd like. So I'm very curious why it says the resource does not exist. I think for the bucket, I might have referenced the wrong bucket here. This bucket can't be found in your current in this region. And I think the bucket I created is actually another name, so I picked the wrong thing here. And same thing with code star connection. If it says it doesn't exist, we could be referencing one that I deleted in the past, which is not the best idea. All right, so what we're gonna wanna do is we're gonna wanna remove these resources from my errors, remove them. Okay, now this is totally good. You can even click on resync to just make sure that everything is fine. But in the meantime, I'm curious to see whether or not my generator is just a little bit slow there. I might need to rescan it so that I can see other resources that maybe didn't get picked up by my generator the first time round. You know, that's totally possible actually. Wow, Andre says, I promise you that I'll make a marathon with all your challenges videos for the next days. All of them are so good. Yay, Andre, for real? Am I gonna see you do the challenge? That's awesome. I'm excited for you to start. Do you have experience in DevOps or AWS? It's gonna be completely new to you. I'm very, very excited for you. I do have a lot of excitement about this challenge. You know, it gets challenging, but it's also so good. So this is cool. This is very cool. Okay. Let me see. So it seems like I still have my failed resources that I need to resolve, because I still want them in my template. I don't want to lose them. But what I would need to do is to wait for the scan to complete. Oh, it is gonna take some time. I think it's gonna take a bit of time for the scan to complete. So here's what I'm gonna do. The two resources I deleted are the code connection and the S3 bucket. I can actually still do the next step without those two resources yet. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna keep on going, okay, for this demo, but I'm gonna show you how you can resolve that error the moment my scan is complete. But at least we can keep on going with this demo without waiting for that for too long. Okay, so for now, let's take a screenshot of our CloudFormation console showing our completed template and the preview of our code. Okay, that's select done. And that's step 5 all finished. Let's put our CloudFormation template to the test. And in this step, we're gonna need to delete our CI/CD resources from our account, I know. But then we'll get to also deploy new resources using that template. Okay, so in this step, we will delete resources off of our account, and then we'll try to launch them again using our template. So you might be thinking, oh my gosh, why are we deleting everything we just did in steps 1 to 4? So the reason for that is because your deployment will actually fail, your CloudFormation deployment will fail if it finds that you already have an existing resource with the exact same name. And in our case, our template's resources are gonna have the exact same name as what's in our account currently. So in order for us to just make sure our deployment doesn't fail because of this same name error, let's just delete everything that's in our account so far. And by deleting everything, we're making sure that the sorry, I almost lost my train of thought. By deleting all these resources, we're making sure that the launching of new resources with our template is successful. Okay. Now I'm really tempted to just check if I were to go back to my IaC Generator. Okay, my scan is still in progress, which is okay. Okay, so we'll have to delete all of these resources, including our CodeDeploy application, our CodeBuild project, the CodeArtifact repository, the CodeArtifact domain, S3 buckets, EC2 instance, IAM roles, IAM policies, everything that we created previously, we're all going to delete now. Hey, we've got a good question from Jyotish in the chat today. Hey, so I got charged 10 cents for using CodeBuild yesterday. I did delete everything yesterday, but today the billing came out to 10 cents. I was wondering if there will be more charges. Please let me know. Hey, thank you so much for asking, Jyotish, and let's better understand what's going on here. Have you been deleting all your resources at the end of every single day? Yeah, it must be a bit shocking to see that you were charged. So, yeah, I'm like really feeling for you there. And let's have a look at what happens in the free tier so we can better understand it. The free tier page is still down, isn't it? Alright then. It seems like the free tier is not showing up properly. So I also wonder what's going on with your charges. I would like to see what's going on. And for me, I would usually go into free tier, and that big free tier overview page is down, but at least there's a page called free tier categories where you can pick DevOps. So I'm just here in the DevOps page, and let me actually send that link in the chat as well so we can look at it together. And here you can see that CodeBuild is always free, and you get 100 build minutes per month. So I'm surprised because I think that should mean that it's okay. Maybe perhaps what has happened was that the CodeBuild build lasted longer than 100 minutes. Okay. Interesting. So CodeBuild AWS free tier includes 100 total build minutes per month using on-demand EC2. So what I'm thinking is whether or not whether the number of builds that you've done was enough to go over 100 minutes. Because this is my first time hearing about getting charged for CodeBuild, so I'm like super alert right now. I would have thought that our builds wouldn't take longer than 100 minutes. So, I understand this is a bit of a pivot from our usual, for our CloudFormation project. So I'm gonna close this in a few minutes, but I am aware that my scan is still going, which is why I'm just gonna lend a bit of time to work on this. And I think it's nice to just like look into this together as a team. I feel like maybe there's something here. Build project. Maybe there's something here that's affecting the pricing. Let's see. Let's look into the environment. So free tier is for general one.small instance types using on-demand EC2. Could it be? It's like these instances and the image needs to be ARM? Like this? I'll continue having a look into this, Jyotish. I wonder if there's a change in the setup that we need to do. But I am a bit stumped as well, only because this is my first time hearing about getting charged for CodeBuild, so I would really like to better understand this before I share any tips on what's going on. Let me add a note about looking into CodeBuild charges, Jyotish. And I'm sorry I can't give you a full answer, a full complete answer right now, but I would like to look into the pricing here. You should not be paying for your resources in this project. We have designed it to be free tier eligible. So if there are any charges, maybe there's been a change in AWS pricing that I'm new to. So this is a very, very good note, Jyotish. Thank you so much. Another tip for anyone that's tuning in and might be a bit worried about charges, just know that Nextwork students have gotten charged for projects before. We are familiar with this feeling, and we know that it's like, it can be, you know, a nasty surprise sometimes. So I highly recommend that you check out our support articles in the community. We have articles talking about how you can contact AWS support about your charge and get it waived off of your bill so you don't have to pay for it. We've pretty much 100% of our students have successfully waived their bills in the past because they got in touch with AWS support in time. So Jyotish, I highly recommend doing that for yourself as well. Cool. I understand that was a bit of a little side quest there. But if I were to check my scan, okay, I think my scan is complete now. So perfect. Let me just double check whether or not new resources have come up because of my scan, and see if I can add new resources like this. So if you have an existing scan like this and you want to add things to it, you would click Add Resources. And I'm gonna have a look at whether or not I can just put in my bucket here. That error was a bit suspicious. It was almost telling me like, I might need to redo my template. Okay, that's okay. Let me redo my template, and this time with the resources that I couldn't use in my previous attempt. So let's delete this. I'm gonna delete this. I hope you don't have the same error as me, because this is my first time seeing this error actually. But if you run into that error, this is how we could troubleshoot it together. Let's just create a new template after we scan it again. Hello? This should be okay. Why can't we create a new template? Okay, I've scanned it again. Let's create a template. Okay, and the policy should be delete. Hit next. This resource scan is expired. Please list resource scans to find a resource scan that has not expired. If no complete resource scan exists, start a new one. We did just complete a new one. This should be fine, right? Do we need to rescan again? Maybe we do? Oh, okay, we're fine now. It seems like we're okay now. All right. Let us create a new template, and this time I should be able to find all my resources because I've scanned again. So let me just click on the bucket. Okay, I can see it now. This is the bucket for me. And the other resources were CodeArtifact, the CodeArtifact domain, let's get it, the CodeArtifact repository, and then CodeDeploy. Let's pick that. We also have our code start connection. I'm just gonna do this a little bit more speedy now that we have done this before together. And also our instance profile, which is for our EC2 instance. And in the policies for our EC2 instance. Let's keep looking for my EC2 instances, policies. Wow, so many of the same thing. Okay, we got CodeArtifact here, great. And I think we also want to find the roles that we've created. So let me find role. So you click on role here, and then you pick the roles that you've created. So let's select where's our role? AWS CloudDeploy role. And our instance, very good. Where's the role for CodeBuild? It should be here. CodeBuild, CodeBuild, CodeBuild. You might see it before me. Where's our role for CodeBuild? Is our role for CodeBuild not here? Oh, it is here. I missed it. Sorry about that, team. So that's our 11 resources done. Hit next. And we don't need these extra ones, just the policies we want. And let's create our template. Woof! Okay, come on. Let's do it. Okay, template, getting ready. Very good. I think this time around I shouldn't get an error, and we've successfully created it. Very nice. Okay, the error that I got is all resolved now. All I had to do was just regenerate, rescan, and recreate my template. And then this time around, it's all good. It seems like the last time my scan actually still caught resources that are old in my account. And if that happens to you, it's okay. We could resolve it like always. Nice, but let's keep on going now because the next thing that we need to do is to delete these existing resources in our account. So let's quickly go ahead, delete them all now that we've scanned them, and we can download your template. Make sure to go to your template and download it like this. So download your template so you have a copy of it locally. And once you've downloaded it, let's go ahead and delete the resources that are now going to overlap with our template. So that includes, let's start by looking at our code tools, shall we? We'll start with our CodeDeploy application, since we're here. And let's delete that first. Next up, let's delete our CodeBuild project. And under actions, it should say delete. Delete that off. For CodeArtifact, let's delete our repositories. So both of them, okay? Don't just delete the one you created. Don't forget to also delete the upstream repository. And same with the domain. Let's delete that domain. Spicy. Off we goes. And then now that that's done, let's also delete our IAM resources. Okay, I don't want to see that again. That was not fun. Let's also delete the code connection. So if you're still here in your developer tools, open up the settings panel and delete the connection. We don't need that anymore. We're creating it in the template. Great. Okay. So once that connection is set up, we also have our bucket that we can delete. Now that that connection is deleted, we also have our bucket to delete, and let's delete that here. And our IAM resources that I'm getting to now. So we've got in the IAM console, you can start by visiting the IAM policies and the IAM roles. So I can delete the roles. And then we can delete the policies. So these roles I don't need. I also don't think, yeah, I think these two roles we don't need. And we also don't need that EC2 instance role. So that's 3 roles now that we can delete. Oh, don't create the role. We're deleting a role. Oops. Let's go back. Let's delete the CodeDeploy role, the CodeBuild role, and the CodeArtifact role for our EC2 instance. Delete them all. And then we can also delete the policies. So now that those roles are getting deleted, don't forget that we have a bunch of policies that we can delete as well. The first one was that CodeArtifact policy. There's so many resources that we create. It's crazy, isn't it? But I really like the results that we get to achieve, you know, with the resources that we create. Okay, and then there's also our set of CodeBuild policies to delete. And these are all customer managed. Policies. So let's go ahead and delete this one. And delete the next one, which is the one using CloudWatch. And then that last one uses code connections, so let's delete that one too. Great. Policies are all getting deleted now, so that's IAM roles and policies deleted. And then next up, I think we've still got a little bit more to do. We've got the CodeDeploy resources done. We've got our CodeBuild resources done, CodeArtifact done, S3 done. Oh, we got our EC2 instance next. IAM though, also done. So actually we've deleted more than I anticipated. We only have one more thing to delete, which is that EC2 instance we created called Network DevOps your name. So go ahead and terminate that instance straight away. We don't want it anymore. Gone. So gone is that instance. We're all done. And if you're thinking that went by a little bit quickly, here are all of the step-by-step guidance for all of the resources I deleted. Okay? Okay. So before testing our template, we deleted the existing resources from our account because they share the same name as the resources in our generated template. This would cause an error, so we're deleting the existing resources to avoid that conflict or that overlap. Okay? Okay. So once it's all done, we're gonna launch our CloudFormation template now. Oh, let's do it. Let's do it. To do that, we're gonna have to open up a new stack. So enter in your CloudFormation console. Let's click on stacks, create a stack with new resources. And what should we do? Let's upload a template file. So we're gonna upload a template file, and under choose file, we'll select the template that you downloaded that's in your downloads folder. So this is the template that I downloaded. I can tell that the name is correct, Network DevOps CI/CD 3, and that means this is the template that I created just now with the IaC Generator. So pick the one for yourself. It should have this structure: Nextwork, DevOps, CI/CD, template, and then a random number. Click Next. And here we go. Let's configure the stack by just giving it a name. Click Next again. Whoops. And add a number, add a random number if you already have that stack name. And let's go ahead and make sure that it deletes all created resources during a rollback. We don't want it to leave any traces in our account if anything fails. Then iconic us, we're gonna tick yes, go create the IAM resources. I allow you to create IAM resources, and hit next. Cool, let's go ahead and click submit and create our template. Launch the template. The template's already created. Now we're launching a stack using that template. Oh, my hair's so messy. Oh, sorry, team. Oh no, my hair is so messy today. Oopsies. Oh, my hair is quite messy, everyone. Sorry about that. And once it goes, it's off. All right, these events basically tell us what's going on behind the scenes as CloudFormation tries to launch these resources. Okay. And you can actually hit the refresh button to see what's going on. And we got a fail. We've got a failure. You might notice that we got an error. No stress. Honestly, let's just expand what's going on and see why we got an error. I like that there's this thing called view root cause that you can click on. So if you see this button, click on it, and it takes you straight to the exact item that caused the error. Oh. Okay. And there's even a status reason that you can expand. So expand that status reason. Oh man, I was hoping this could be a bit more detailed. Okay, so here we have our error message. Our managed policy has a create fail, and this is the policy for CodeBuild. Okay, one of our CodeBuild policies couldn't create. And what was the reason? The role with the name CodeBuild Nextwork DevOps CI/CD service role cannot be found. So what was failing is a policy, and the reason for it is a role. Okay, this is interesting because it's basically telling us that the reason why this particular resource didn't create is not because of its own fault, not because of the way we defined it, but more because another resource cannot be found. Ooh, interesting. So you might recall that this role should exist. CodeBuild Nextwork DevOps CI/CD service role, hello? Of course that role exists. It's also in our template. So what's happening in the background is that while CloudFormation is creating this policy, it's also creating the role at the same time. So these resources are getting created at the same time. But for the policy, the definition is trying to attach it to the role. You need your role to be done creating. You need your role to exist for the policy to attach to it. But right now that role doesn't exist. It's like still in creation mode. So when your CloudFormation template is off trying to finish creating your policy, it's gonna say, okay, attaching you to the role, attaching you to the role. And it's gonna say, oh, role can't be found. I can't attach it. And all we gotta do is make sure that we add this little setting that makes sure that the role is created first, so that the role is in your account already, and by the time your policy wants to attach to it, it's already in there and we can still attach. So what's next for us is for us to take a screenshot of that error and explain why we got that error. Oh, and by the way, if you got a different error message, it probably means you just hit a different kind of error before you reach this point. If that's the case for you, check out that error message, check out the status reason, and see if you can resolve it. If you can't resolve it, we're always here to work on it together. Okay. Let me try to fix up my live team. I'm so surprised that this happened yet again. Oh, don't do that. Okay, amazing. So let's go ahead and edit our template so that we can fix this error. In the meantime though, let me take a sneaky screenshot of the error. The role could not be found. Create failed. So let's add that to our documentation. And let's reflect on that here. We tested our template. How? We tested our template by launching a stack using the template we generated. The result of the first test was create failed because our IAM policy tried to attach to an IAM role that didn't exist yet. This is because the role is getting created in the exact same template. So it was not yet ready by the time the policy wanted to attach to it. Okay, so let's fix this error by telling CloudFormation, yo, we need to stagger this out. We need to create our IAM roles first before we start creating any of the policies. Otherwise, our policies are all going to say fail, 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 fail. I'm looking for a resource. That resource is not available. To resolve this error, we're going to have to open up the template and go into coding mode a little bit. And I'm going to open it up now using VS Code. So let me open up VS Code and open up the file within VS Code. All right, so the file should be here, open folder. Oh, actually I don't need to open a folder. I just need to open a file. Okay, so that should be all open for me now. Okay, and this is your CloudFormation template. Dun dun dun! Welcome to all of the code that was behind the scenes whenever you pressed a tick and whenever you clicked generate template. This is all the code that CloudFormation was creating for you. And here, our purpose is to do a little bit of troubleshooting. Now, the issue was our policies were failing. Our policies were all saying, I want to attach to a role, and that role doesn't exist. So to resolve this, we have a magical line that we tell CloudFormation, that we add to our CloudFormation template. That magical line is called depends on, okay? It looks like this. In order to find our IAM policies, their names should all start with IAM policy. Okay, so to do a little, I'm just gonna take a step back actually for 1 second, and I'll just call out that our template is structured in a very, very specific way. We've got a metadata section, which says this is all of the data about the CloudFormation template itself, but the more important section is everything under resources. Okay, so resources is all of the resources that we defined. In this case, we've got our code star connection. Okay, you can see it here. You've got your IAM instance profile, your policy again. These are all the culprits. The policies are the ones that cause the error for us. You got CodeArtifact, IAM role, another IAM role. Okay, so we've got S3 bucket. These are all the resources that we created in the template. Policy again. I'm looking at those policies. We need to fix these up. And we also got CodeArtifact domains and more roles. Okay, so it's a bit of a jumbled up vibe, isn't it? CodeArtifact repository again, CodeDeploy application at the end. Okay, our main goal here is to just make sure that we resolve that policy error. And the depends on line is something that tells CloudFormation to wait first. Wait for the role to be created first, and then you create the policy. That's everything that depends on line is trying to say. So let's give that a go. Let's find a policy. And in this case, which one is the one that really caused our error today? It was the CodeBuild base policy. Okay, so I'm gonna go search for CodeBuild base policy. And I'm gonna go find it here. This is the definition of our CodeBuild base policy. And I'm gonna put in here, depends on. Okay, so I'm gonna click here. I'm gonna say it depends on a role. What role does it depend on? Aha. It depends on our CodeBuild service role. Okay, it was outlined here, CodeBuild. So let's go back up to where my CodeBuild role was defined. You can see that, where do we create an IAM role? Let's go find it. This is our CodeBuild role, okay? And this is the ID of that role. So you actually copy the ID. So let's say ID, let's copy that. And then let's go back to where we have our depends on line. So find depends on again. And then paste it in here. And now we're basically saying our policy depends on this role. Let's copy this and apply that to all of our other policies. Because as you can see here, every single policy is running into the same error. Policy says, okay, the role is not here, the role is not here, the role is not here, the role is not here. So every single policy in our template is depending on this role. Okay, say less. Let me visit all of the other policies and add that depends on line to each of them. Okay, I'm just searching IAM, M for IAM managed policy, basically, is what I'm searching for. And that automatically takes me to each of the policies that we're defining. And I'm gonna add the depends on line straight away. Cool, and there should be 4 policies that's waiting on our CodeBuild role. So let's make sure that we have our depends on line 4 times. I think that should be 4 now. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I think that should be 4. And if you're new to it, all I'm doing is I'm pressing Command F, I'm searching depends on, and I'm pressing enter to click through all of the different policies that I have. Very nice. Now that should be depends on sorted. But do we have something else to do? let us take a screenshot of what we have so far and then talk about the next thing. To resolve the error, we opened up our template in a code editor to try to update the template manually. The depends on attribute means a resource needs to wait for another resource in the same template to be created first. Okay, all done. So make sure this line is added to all 4 of your IAM policies, but as we save our changes, have a think. Does that resolve all of the policies in our template? There is still another policy in your template that's attached to another role. Okay, so there's another policy which is for CodeArtifact access that's attached to a second role. So we need to actually visit that CodeArtifact policy too and transform the depends on line for that policy to also wait for the role that grants CodeArtifact access. So let's go ahead and find that CodeArtifact policy. I think that CodeArtifact policy is here. Oh, it's not a CodeArtifact policy. It's an, I would say, it's like the consumer policy to make it a bit clearer for us. So it should be here. Okay, it's called CodeArtifact next with consumer policy. Okay, here is the policy for getting access to CodeArtifact. And it needs to wait on 2 roles. The first one is CodeBuild, but there's a second one, which is the second one is the IAM role we give to our EC2 instance. You know how our development instance needs to wear that special crown to access CodeArtifact? That is another role that this policy actually needs to wait on. So what is the name of that role? Do you think you can find it here? Well, if you'd like to find it, you can actually search IAM and then : role to find the role that we've created for our EC2 instance. And you can see it's right here actually. EC2 instance, Nextwork CI/CD, that matches up with what we've created for our EC2 instance. So let's go back to our policy. And let us add a new depends on line. Oof. Let's add a new depends on line for the role. Okay, there we go. You see that depends on line? I'm back here now. I had to search consumer policy to find it. But in that depends on section, let's add the EC2 instances role. Okay, so now our now the policy that grants CodeArtifact access is waiting on 2 roles to complete first, the CodeBuild role and the EC2 instance role. Save your changes, don't forget, reflect on what you've just learned, and let's move on. The depends on line was added to 5 different parts of my template. I would say it's actually more like 4 different parts of the template, so I might just update this prompt here to say 4 different parts of our template. It was all 4 policies for CodeBuild. Oh, it is 5 different places. It is 5 different places. No, it's 4 different places. It's 4 policies. All 4 policies for CodeBuild, which are policies that allow access to CodeArtifact, Code Connection, CloudWatch, and EC2 instances, which is under CodeBuild's base policy. For the CodeArtifact policy, oh, 1 second, T. Okay. So for the CodeArtifact policy, we actually had to define 2 depends online. It depends on, do you remember? It depends on it depends on the CodeBuild service role and the EC2 instances role. Great. All done. So now that we've updated it, let's test our template one more time. So in this step, we will test our template again. Now that we've updated it to resolve the role does not exist error. Cool. Now in our CloudFormation console, let's choose create stack one more time. Let's see if it's gonna work now. And we're gonna upload our template file, upload a new one. And this time, you can see, oh my gosh, another error. Hello, what is going on? How do we run into another error? We only just uploaded the template and we ran into another error already? I'm just checking the chat in case anyone has any questions. That is nasty. Look at this huge error message. It says there is a circular dependency between resources. And this circular dependency involves, again, our IAM resources. Man, they're a pain in the butt today. We got IAM instance profile, IAM managed policy, and all of the policies and all of the roles that we've created are listed here. So every single policy and every single role is being caught in a new error called circular dependency. So it is a bit of a chicken and egg error that we're running into now. The CloudFormation template is confused. Parts of your template is stuck in a loop. Turns out, now our policies say they depend on the role to be created. This is what we did in the previous step. But the IAM roles actually also say that it waits for the policies before it can be created either. So both the roles and the policies are saying, oh, let the other person go first. Let the other person go first. And CloudFormation's like, stop. I can't create either of you if you're all gonna say, let the other thing go first. Okay, is it policies first or is it roles first? Tell me what I should do first. Interesting error. How do we resolve this? Ooh, I love this error though. It looks so nasty, like that huge error block, but resolving it is so satisfying. Okay, cool. So we gave our CloudFormation template another test, but this time there was a new error. Circular dependencies. This error tells us that CloudFormation doesn't know what resource it should deploy first. As it turns out, our policies depend on the roles, but the roles depend on the policies to be created. This puts CloudFormation in a loop. So our template is unusable. That's honestly low-key a more crazy error to get than the previous one, because this error literally means that we can't deploy anything that's in our template. At least in the previous one, depending on how you set up your deletion policies, you can still create, the other resources that are in there. But in our scenario, no can do. We can't even deploy anything. So let's go ahead and solve this now. We're going to open up our template back in our text editor, and this time the error to solve is to figure out what we should deploy first. Is it the policy? Is it the role? So in our case, it is actually the role that needs to delete the references to the policy. We like the fact that policies should be attached immediately to a role when they get created. So in our case, let's just make sure that we're going to have a section in each role that says manage policy ARNs. And in each role's definition, we're going to delete that section so that our roles no longer reference policies. Now only the policy will reference the role. The role will not reference the policy. Okay, to really show this, let's do this in action. First, let's find our CodeBuild role. Where is it? Okay, it's right here. Our CodeBuild role, as you can see, actually references all 4 policies in here. Yeah, it's referencing all of the policies, and it means that if you don't have these policies set up, CloudFormation is going to say, oh, okay, since you're referencing these and I don't have these yet, I'm going to need to set up these policies first. But when it goes to create the policy says it depends on the role. That is not an ideal scenario. We're going to want to delete all of these references to the policies so that the role is just about creating itself. And then the policy can be about creating the policy and then attaching to the role. But let's let the roles be just about themselves. Visit the other role that's in your template. It should also start with IAM role. So it should also say IAM role like this. And this one is the role about our EC2 instance. I can find the reference now. The full reference is here. Okay, so in our our EC2 instances role, I can also see we have another manage policy ARN section that says, oh, wait for the CodeArtifact policy to be created first. We don't need to wait. Just create the role first. And then when we create the policy, reference the role. Okay, so this is what we're doing when we delete those lines. All right, so this is great. Let's just mention how we fix the error and try our template one last time. To fix the error, we revisited our template and tried to understand why both roles and policies are referencing each other in the template. As it turns out, the roles have a section called Manage Policy ARN that references a policy, that references the policy they use. Then the policy definitions have the depends on line that asks to wait for the roles to be created first. to resolve this loop, we simply had to delete all of the manage policy ARN sections, we simply had to delete all of the manage policy ARN sections off of our roles. Okay, so let's click done. And a big shout out to Timtimul AI Studio. Yesterday and today, not easy, but we keep pushing. Thank you very much. Our best teacher, we love you. Thank you so much. That's so sweet. I'm gonna, oops, and I accidentally deleted the share screen. I'm gonna remember this, Timtimul AI Studio. Thank you so much. That's really sweet. Okay, cool. So we've saved our changes, and we've also saved our answer. And what's next for us is to deploy it and test it one last time. It's gonna be a success for us, I think, after this. And before we do that, I thought I'd recommend a secret mission to all of us. Do you want to upgrade your CloudFormation template? You've done a great job so far, but your secret mission, if you want to upgrade it once more, is to write new definitions for 2 critical components of your CI/CD pipeline. Remember how this template doesn't have a CodeBuild project, it doesn't have a CodeDeploy deployment group. So in this secret mission, you're going to learn how to write those 2 resources into your template. And once you've written them, it means next time when you deploy your CloudFormation template, you would have had created those resources too. That's awesome, isn't it? So let's write the definitions for 2 key resources in your template. Let's make your template more reusable using an advanced technique called parameterization. And then we're gonna showcase all these new skills in our portfolio. Let's unlock that secret mission now. Hey, all unlocked, very nice. And let's go ahead and get started. Cool. So here, find your generated CloudFormation template. And I'm just gonna check the chat in case anyone has any questions. Okay, we're all good. So let's take and let's review everything that we have. It all looks fine. Just remember the structure of things. You got the resources section, and every single resource has its own title, its own ID underneath. We want to respect this order, okay? So this is the reason why we should review our existing structure and see how we can add new resources, CodeBuild and CodeDeploy, within this section, within this template too. Okay, let's find the very, very end of the section. We're still here, but we're at the very end now. And let's add our CodeBuild definition. Ooh, CodeBuild is chunky. Do you see this? That's insanely chunky. We're gonna copy our CodeBuild definition, and this is the reason why our generator can't do it by itself. It's a huge definition. It's probably the biggest one that you'll have. And it sits right underneath CodeDeploy for my template, but it should be around line like 266 for you when you paste it in here. I might just, add a new line for us. Okay, so you've got your CodeBuild project in here, and it depends on a few things. It depends on your CodeBuild service role. It depends on your S3 bucket. It depends on a GitHub repo owner, a GitHub repo name. It depends on an S3 bucket ID again. Oof, so we've got a few things here to sort out. And then your CodeBuild service role ID one more time. Okay, so now that we've pasted in our own definition of CodeBuild, let's go ahead and fill in the details. I'm going to go ahead and fill in the details for the service role. I think the ID was somewhere around here, so I'm gonna go ahead and look for it. Where is my service role? Hello, where is my CodeBuild service role? It should say CodeBuild. Next we're -DevOps -CI/CD service role. So this is the service role that we're looking for. Where is it in our template? Oh, okay. It should be here. It's called IAM role 00. Here's our CodeBuild service role. Found it. Very, very good. So once you find your service role, go down to your CodeBuild definition again, and let's go ahead and paste that in the placeholder here. Okay? So it depends on the service role. We've given it the ID. Next thing is the S3 bucket. So if you want to find where you define your S3 bucket, I would search S3 and then ... Is it called a colon? Yeah, it's called a colon. S3 : : and that helps us find our S3 definition, where you can copy the name and go all the way back down to your CodeBuild definition again and paste that ID here. Again, this is a secret mission. It's designed to be a bit more challenging. So if this is a bit much, just know that it's okay. Secret mission is optional. We can go ahead and you can skip ahead to step 8 if you'd like. We're not done yet though. The S3 bucket ID still has one more reference here, and our service role also has one more reference here. So let's put that here. And we're done. So that's our CodeBuild definition, our CodeBuild project defined now in here. Woof, that was a chunky one, wasn't it? Let's go ahead and take a screenshot and reflect on that in our documentation. All right, what were the 2 resources you added to your template in a project extension? We manually defined 2 more resources, a CodeBuild project and a CodeDeploy deployment group. I just realized I should have mentioned this question a bit later. Because the deployment group is something we define here. Okay, so let's define the deployment group here now. Let's copy the code for our deployment group. Let's paste that right underneath the CodeBuild definition like this. And now you have your deployment group definition here too. I'm just going to make sure the indentation is correct, because indentations can really make or break your template. Always make sure that the indentation is the same, because the moment the indentation is off, you can actually just fail your entire template just like that. So it's incredibly important that we just make sure indentation is okay, and we fill in all of the template, all of the depends on and all of the placeholders here. Our CodeDeploy role also has its own ID in this template. We also need to find the application ID. Okay, all good. And just like that, that's your deployment group defined over here. Okay, very nice. Let's go find our application ID. So again, to find the application ID, the first thing I do is go CodeDeploy : , and then we can find the application ID right here. I'm gonna copy the ID, and I'm gonna jump back down to my deployment group definition, and then paste in the application ID here. Right. So next one is our roles ID. So our application, our CodeDeploy role is probably something you can find by going IAM : and search for role. Now CodeDeploy's role, its name is right here. So I can find it because I searched IAM : role. There were only 3 results, and then the 3rd result was my CodeDeploy role. You can see the proof here, and also in its role name. That's definitely the role for CodeDeploy. So let's copy the ID here. Let's jump back down to our deployment group definition, and now let's paste in the role ID here. All right, so I think with that, we have finished up the definition for CodeDeploy as well. What's next for us is to add a parameter section. So let's add a parameter section at the top. Can you guess why we might need parameters? Parameters are kind of like form fields in a CloudFormation template. It's like something where when you deploy your CloudFormation template, it's going to say, I'm now going to capture your IP address. And you know how we have to type in our IP address and do /32? That's a parameter. Now you can also write your own parameters. Ooh, yeah. I know, right? It's kind of fun. I think the parameters we need to add here is very, very versatile and helpful too. Because the parameters we need to put in are for GitHub repo owner and GitHub repo. This is not resolved yet. We still need to be very, very clear what is our GitHub account name and what is the repository name. We're going to need to add the parameters here into our template so that it can actually so that our template can actually grab our GitHub account details. Now, to put in your parameters, we need to go all the way to the top of our template and put it before resources. So you find the resources line, you add a new line, you paste that here, and there we go. Parameters all here. The cool thing is that you can actually add a default setting, like a default name here. And in my case, I know what my account name is. It's NetNextwork1. And I know what my repository name is. It's Nextwork Web Project. That's the name of my GitHub repo. So once I put in the default values, it means that when I launch the template, these values would already be inside as a placeholder for me. So I simply have to save this file now. We can reflect on the changes we made, and I think we're done. Cool. So we also introduced parameters, which are like form fields in a CloudFormation template. Instead of hard coding a value inside the template, we can get the CloudFormation stack to ask the user the value of XYZ when they launch the resources. In this example, we created parameters for our GitHub account information, i.e. account name and repo name. Nice. So let's hit done. And when we're ready, we've already done this, but this is just a reminder to just make sure that all of these IDs actually have been replaced with the values that belong in your template. We can't put these values in for you because everyone has a unique name or a unique ID here when they download their template. So it really has to be the unique ID that you see here. Make sure you didn't get to use the same IDs as what I wrote. Follow your own template's IDs. We also had to make sure the references were consistent in this template. So we edited the values for the S3 bucket ID, CodeDeploy application ID, and service role IDs to match the ID of those resources in the template. Okay, now we have an upgraded, enhanced template in front of us. What we gotta do next is save this upgraded template and try validate it as well. So we're gonna go ahead and launch a new template. So let's click choose file when we're back in CloudFormation and just upload it. And that makes CloudFormation validate the template. If you can see that you have no issues here, you've successfully completed the secret mission. Congratulations. So all we gotta do now is secret mission complete. We can, along with the rest of everyone that's doing this project, test our CloudFormation template one last time. Let's go. Okay, so since I'm already here, I've just uploaded the template file. I'm gonna click next, and I'm gonna use a new stack name, Next DevOps Project 4. I guess that worked, very nice. And here we have our parameters. You can see here my GitHub repo is already filled in. And then the GitHub repo owner value is also filled in. Okay, so it is NetNextCirc 1 project. That should be the name. And you can see it matches up. NetNextCirc 1, NextCirc web project. So I have a lot of confidence in my default values. They should be correct. And I'm gonna go ahead and keep on going with my template. Let's hit next. Let's just make sure we delete all created resources if we run into any failures. Let CloudFormation know it can create IAM resources, and go ahead and submit. Pew, 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 pew. I'm so excited. Let's see what happens this time. Are we gonna successfully create everything? We'll have to look and see. Okay, so we can keep on clicking refresh to see everything getting created. And there's even a resources tab here that lets us see the process of creating all of these resources. Ooh, it's looking pretty promising. So we've got our CodeArtifact domain, CodeArtifact repo, CodeDeploy application, CodeStart connection, IAM role, all getting created. Nice. Refresh, and you see even more. You see the instance profile is getting created, and everything else is already deployed. It's been less than a minute since I created that. And look at that, it's already deployed. What in the actual? That's so much faster than when I do it manually, isn't it? It's so, like, we've already created all of these resources. Insane. So you can even click on the hyperlinks that come with the resource to actually see it in real life. So we got our CodeArtifact domain, click on this. Oh my gosh. Look at this. We got our domain here for CodeArtifact. Got the repositories inside. That's crazy. That's actually crazy. All of these resources are created now. CodeBuild. Check out our build projects. Look at that. The CodeBuild project you defined is inside here, and this is because I did the secret mission. So if you didn't do the secret mission, you won't have a CodeBuild project. But look at this. It even has GitHub as a source provider. That's correct. And it even has a repository because we put it inside the parameters for the GitHub account name and the repo name. We put in those values, and it successfully links to the right repository now. And we got CodeDeploy. So we have an application to see. Let's see. Oh my gosh, it was created 2 minutes ago. Oh my gosh, we got a CodeDeploy application. And look at this, because I did do the secret mission, there's a CodeDeploy deployment group as well with all of the service roles that we linked it to. You know how we had to manually put in the service role ID? It's so that by the time you launch it, it's already all connected and you don't need to do it again. This is insane, guys. All of this was created in an instant. I'm so stunned. I'm actually so stunned. So we got all these resources here that you can find and also click on. Amazing. That's so cool. Okay. So let's go ahead and showcase the success of our deployment. Oh my goodness, let's go ahead and say we could verify all the deployed resources by visiting Can you remember what we did? Have a think, have a think. Can you remember what we did? Okay, so we could verify all of the deployed resources by visiting the hyperlinks provided for each deployed resource. We could see all of the resources defined in the template. From IAM policies, and you can verify, can you see an IAM policy? To the manually defined CodeBuild project. Insane. Okay, oh my God, all these policies are created in an instant. That's amazing. All right, so well done on creating some fantastic resources at lightning speed today with CloudFormation. I'm so excited, isn't it? Isn't it so cool? There will still be some setup to do to create your web app and deploy it too. So in our next project, we will be launching this CloudFormation template and then going straight ahead with connecting things afterwards. But you have saved yourself so much time today because in the next project, you don't need to set up any of these resources. It's already going to be created for you in just 1 minute. Fun fact, this kind of template also saves your colleagues time. If they'd ever like to deploy the exact same project, or if you have a friend that wants to do this project, you can just give them this template and say, oh, like here's something cool I created. Try launching it and see whether it kickstarts your progress too. Simply pass on your template to them. They can now deploy the same resources in their account. So cool. All right, team, let's delete all of our resources that we've created today so that we can clean our account, avoid any charges, and let's wrap up with a final reflection and seeing all of our documentation. Okay, let's start by deleting our CloudFormation stack. So let's select delete next to our stack. And you know what? This CloudFormation stack actually deletes all of the resources that are inside. So by deleting this stack, you've already deleted your CodeDeploy application, your CodeBuild project, CodeArtifact repo, CodeArtifact domain, IAM roles, IAM policies, S3 bucket, and we just have the development EC2 instance to check. But I think we've already deleted that previously when we wanted to delete everything in the step before. So if you were to refresh your instances page, you'll see that it's already terminated. Your EC2 instance, it's already gone. So that's actually already done as well. Speeds up the deletion process too. Okay, team. So that's amazing. We've deleted everything actually just by deleting that template. So there's nothing else for us to do in terms of this project. In fact, if you just refresh everything here, it's going to say delete complete. It's already gone ahead and deleted all the resources. Deletion is so much faster now too. The one thing that we still need to delete is the other template we deployed today. This one that we deployed for our deployment environment still needs to go. So select it too. Delete, and we're done. That's it. That's all of the deletion steps cleared. Congrats, team. Let's go ahead and just reflect on our learnings. Services we used were CloudFormation, CodeArtifact, and the Code suite of services. Key concepts we learned include infrastructure as code, how to use the IaC Generator, what else did we do today? Do you remember? Resolving circular dependencies and resources that might depend on other resources to be created first. What else did we learn? This project took us approximately, also, sorry, I didn't finish that thought. We also learned how to write our own resource definitions in the secret mission today. Nice. All right, this project took us approximately 3 hours to complete. Oh my gosh, including demo time. The most challenging part was editing our CloudFormation template, honestly. And finding each resource's IDs. It was most rewarding to deploy the template and even see them live in our account. Great. We did this project today to learn how we can automate our cloud infrastructure for our CI/CD pipeline. This project was a huge success, and we've saved ourselves time for tomorrow. And this project is also part 6 of a series of DevOps projects where we're building that CI/CD pipeline. We'll be working on the next final project tomorrow. Let's finish this series. All done. Thank you so much, team. So get your documentation. We've successfully set up a CI/CD architecture today on AWS using CloudFormation. We learned how to initiate a scan in CloudFormation, generate a CloudFormation template, resolve some critical errors, and in the next project, we're going to be putting everything together today. We're going to be putting everything together to set up that complete CI/CD pipeline. Okay, I'm super excited to see you in the next project. It's going to be our grand finale for our 7-day DevOps challenge. And let's complete this mission in the meantime and generate our documentation for today. That was unbelievable. This project is absolutely unbelievable. The new things that you ended up getting to learn, insane. You're amazing. I hope you know that. If you reach this point, please give yourself a pat on the back. I'm giving you a big hug, a big high five, because that was incredibly difficult, especially if it was your first time working on infrastructure as code. So thank you so much for spending the time to challenge yourself. Thank you so much for saying, oh my gosh, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna spend 3 hours and dedicate myself to creating this template. And oh my gosh, Tintamo AI Studio, you succeeded in your deployment. That's so good. Yo, what the heck? That's amazing. Congratulations. I'm guessing this is CodeDeploy success now? Yeah, I'm so happy for you. That's such a win. Thank you so much for sharing that. What a win. And once you have set up your LinkedIn post, I'm so hyped. You can close that preview, click more, and add a document. Choose the PDF that you've generated. And in the meantime, let's have a look at that PDF together. Yo, what the heck? Whoa. Oh, documentation come out looking good today. Yo. Man, that dark theme is beautiful, isn't it? The depends online, our circular dependencies, manual additions that we added, the final success. Yo, that is amazing. That is amazing to see. Beautiful documentation. I'm excited to add this to my portfolio too. So actually, let me add this to my portfolio. And now that we've attached it, don't forget to give your document a title. So you can say infrastructure as code with CloudFormation. And hit done. And there you go. Your PDF documentation should be attached here now too. Amazing work, everyone. So that is a wrap for today's project. And I'm excited to be adding that little guy into my portfolio too. That looks good. Yeah, let's go. So good. So yeah, it's right here. I'm excited, guys. We just got one more project left to do, and this challenge is done. So thank you so much to everyone. This is so cool. I can't wait to see you in the next project where we're gonna set up the entire CI/CD pipeline and watch it, put it to work. And yeah, I hope you have a lovely rest of your day. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye, everyone.